Today, we're diving into something pretty huge, a major controversy that's been brewing at one of MIT's top neuroscience centers. And let me tell you, this isn't just some dry academic debate. Nope. This is a story about scientific credit, about who gets to write history, and about a potentially game-changing theory of how our brains work. And really, what this all boils down to is a pretty serious claim. Quote, an attribution scandal hiding in plain sight. See, this is about way more than just a new theory. It's about who gets the credit for what could be a revolutionary idea, and who gets to write the very first chapter of its history. All right, so here's the core of the issue. In late 2025, MIT puts out this big announcement celebrating a theory they call spatial computing. They called it a novel breakthrough, something first proposed in 2023. But here's the problem. An independent researcher, a guy named Micah Blumberg, says, hang on a second. He claims the entire blueprint, the core concepts, they were already out there, on the public record, written by him, years before MIT's announcement. Now, Blumberg uses a really specific term here, a fraudulent narrative. It's super important we understand what he means. He's not accusing anyone of a crime. Instead, he's saying that the story MIT told became misleading because of what it left out. He even calls it a form of academic credit laundering, where ideas from an independent researcher are allegedly taken, their origins wiped clean, and then stamped with the brand of a major institution. So what's this big idea that's causing all the fuss? To really get what's at stake, we gotta quickly understand the theory of spatial computing itself. Okay, let's break this down, because it's actually a pretty cool idea. The theory suggests our brain organizes thoughts in this really elegant way. You've got these slower brainwaves, alpha and beta, and they act like control signals. Think of them creating these temporary stencils across your cortex. And these stencils, they control exactly where the much faster gamma waves are allowed to paint all the detailed information. It's this super dynamic system for getting the right information to the right place at the right time. All right, now for the really juicy part. Let's look at the core of Blumberg's claim, the evidence. And this is all about the public record, stuff that's been documented and timestamped. And this right here, this is a key piece of that puzzle. This quote is from Bloomberg's podcast, The Neural Lace Podcast, and it was published way back in 2017. He's right there, on the record, using the exact term spatial computing to describe his work, years before MIT ever called it novel. When you lay it out on a timeline like this, the picture starts to become a lot clearer. So in 2017, Bloomberg's podcast introduces the core ideas. Fast forward to 2022, he publishes a time-stamped, formal architecture for these ideas. And it's only after all that, in 2023, that the MIT paper comes out claiming this novel concept of spatial computing. And the thing is, this isn't just his word against theirs. His work is all over the place, documented on multiple independent platforms that provide verifiable third-party timestamps. We're talking GitHub, Zenodo, even the Wayback Machine. The receipts are there. Okay, so beyond the timeline, let's get to what might be the most direct and, frankly, the most startling piece of evidence. Let's do a side-by-side comparison of the core ideas and the very words used to describe them. This is where it gets, well, kind of wild. Look at the metaphors. In 2022, Blumberg lays out his canvas and ink model. The slower beta waves are the canvas, and the faster gamma waves are the ink that paints the information. Then, 2 years later, the MIT group introduces their stencil metaphor. Beta waves are stencils, and gamma waves paint the information. The argument here is simple. The underlying mechanism being described is identical. All that changed was the noun. But it's not just about pretty metaphors. The claim goes even deeper. Blumberg is asserting that these two models aren't just similar, they're functionally the same. The argument is that if you use formal mathematical methods to compare them, you can actually prove that the two models are structurally identical. So let's pull back for a second, away from all the brainwaves and metaphors. Why does a fight over scientific credit like this actually matter? What are the bigger ideas at play here? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In a world that has these giant, powerful research institutions, but is also being fueled by passionate, independent innovators, who actually gets to write the history books of science, and how do they decide? You know, a dispute like this, it brings up so many bigger issues that science is facing today. What's the role of the independent researcher in a world of big institutions? What happens when institutional prestige clashes with individual innovation? And how do we even begin to properly assign credit for big foundational ideas, especially in theoretical science where intellectual property is so tricky? And I guess it all leaves us with one last big, provocative question.
In today's world of open-source code, online archives, and instant global communication, when an idea can be shared with the entire planet in a second, who truly owns it?